So welcome everyone. Thank you again for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Kendall. I am the Marketing Director at Comtech Systems. And today we're presenting Microsoft Teams Voice. What is it and what it can do for your business? Just a little housekeeping before we get started. At the bottom of your screen, you will see the mute button. So all of you are muted, but you can control your other audio settings there if need be. If there are questions during the presentations, please send me a direct message in the chat box. So in the bottom right side of your screen, you'll see the chat in gray. So you're welcome to click that and select Kendall, and that will come directly to me. So it won't go to the whole entire group. And some of you already sent in your questions, so thank you for that. I'll ask those at the end of the webinar during the Q&A portion. And also, like I said, we are thoughtful of your time. So this webinar will only be about 20 to 30 minutes, and we're leaving 15 minutes for Q&A. So if there are too many Q&As and too many questions, we will touch base with you after directly. And as a reminder, as I mentioned, you are going to receive this recording of the webinar and also a quick survey. We do want to make sure that our webinars get better and better each time. So we'll be sending out a quick, maybe about 3 questions, and we really ask for you to give your candid feedback, please. So without holding things back, we'll get started. And a little bit about our expert, Brad. He is our Microsoft Teams voice guru. He has sold Skype as a hosted solution, and he even sold Teams the first day that it was released. And he has seen the evolution of all Skype products. So I'll turn over the presentation over to Brad.
Thank you, Kendall. Appreciate it. Everybody can hear me okay? You can hear me, Kendall? We're good?
Yes, all is good.
All right, we're off and running here. So welcome everyone. Appreciate the intro. Just a little background. Yeah, I am pretty passionate about Microsoft Teams voice products. Was lucky enough earlier in my career to be involved in kind of the evolution of Microsoft voice products, and I kind of understand where they're going. Today we're really going to be covering a few different topics. I'd really like to break down understanding, is Teams right for your company? Is migrating your phone system right over to Microsoft Teams Voice? And I'll refer to it as Teams Voice, Teams Phone System. They are the same thing. So when I say Teams Voice, what I'm really alluding to is the fact that you're migrating your phone system over to Microsoft, which I call Teams Voice. How does it improve interaction with staff, clients, flexibility and whatnot? And then lastly, the value Teams phones can provide companies from a cost perspective, reducing time, simplifying IT management. Those are the things I'm really going to kind of touch on throughout this. Of course, if there's questions afterwards, I'll be able to answer those. And if there's any additional ones, we can certainly schedule some time to go over this. So just a quick background on Comtech. Just wanted to start here in terms of who we are. Really what we are is the company that stabilizes the telephony industry. We provide multiple cloud phone systems depending on the needs of customers. We've been around for 30 years and really have evolved as voice has evolved and technology has evolved to make sure that we're always on the latest and greatest and understanding really what's impacting businesses this day. Primarily, we're focused on the customer experience, creating a company culture built around our service delivery and customer. In addition, we also provide cost reduction, not just for telephony, but energy, internet connectivity, mobility cell. We really enable customers to refresh their technology without having to do any heavy lifting. So partners come to us for over 30 years. We don't cut corners in terms of training, support, cabling, truck rolls on site. These are a lot of things that our competitors do not do. We have the ability to really provide that concierge type of service. So our growth in the last year, which you've seen is about 96+% on the voice side in 2022, is really a reflection of our staff and our culture. If we keep our staff happy, the culture is good, then that really in turn keeps the customers happy, and that's what we've seen. So a lot of that growth, as you've seen though, is really attributed to Teams Voice. And why is that? So kind of jump into this a little bit more, but why Microsoft Teams Voice, Cloud Voice? Well, I guess what you got to ask yourself first is, why Microsoft O365, and then why Microsoft Teams itself. If you're thinking of migrating your entire business over to Microsoft Teams in terms of a voice product or just in general, what are the benefits that it can provide to you? So Microsoft owns the Office suite world, meaning Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Power BI, all the applications that you use to run your business. 90% of the world really works, off Microsoft, and it's a phenomenal platform. It really is. So what Teams does itself, Microsoft Teams, it consolidates all the Office 365 applications into a single pane of glass, so all users can access files, documents, additional applications for the purpose of collaborating more efficiently. Within Teams, application is the voice component. Whether you're migrating a cloud voice or UCaaS solution, or maybe an old premise-based phone system, the benefits are ease of use, improved interaction with your client and staff, removing technology, and also removing risk for your IT staff that maybe on an outdated phone system they have to manage. But you're really creating the ability to manage and work from anywhere. If you look at yourself maybe as an old school company that has maybe technology that you haven't benefited from yet and think you wouldn't benefit from this, you might be surprised. It really has impacted a lot of different types of companies that we have worked with, Teams and Teams Voice. So within Teams is the voice component of Teams, right? So that is just one of the applications within Microsoft Teams. If you're not using, if you're using Teams today but haven't migrated your voice over, then this is something that could impact you in terms of understanding if this really works for your business. So really, what is Teams Voice? Teams Voice is a unified communications as a service solution. So unified communications is the evolution. We're talking about the evolution of voice products here. If you go back, over the last 120 years, you have analog, the old POTS lines, the rotary phones that, basically my generation maybe is the last to use. So, and then you go to the premise-based voice over IP, which is a phone system that resides on site, a box in your closet, whatnot. And then hosted VoIP came out probably in the early 2000s, and then as internet really became a commodity and more affordable around 2008, 9, 10, that evolved into unified communications as a service. And really what that is the ability to unify instant messaging, chat, text messaging, video, all into one application, therefore unifying the way that you can communicate with customers and staff. So really UCaaS is the evolution of cloud voice as we know it. The benefits in why cloud voice was really adopted so well and grew so fast was because it provides people to use their phone system. They can take phone calls, chat, instant messaging, texting, video, and so on and so forth from anywhere in the world. Teams Voice is really the evolution of unified communications, where you have the ability to remove third-party phone systems and one application for calls, instant messaging, so on and so forth. But really, Teams itself has the ability to do all the file sharing, the collaboration, the stuff that's outside the phone system that no other voice provider really can provide, meaning your Office 365 work, your Office suite. When you mix all that together, that's what Teams Voice really is. So Teams Voice is the component of Microsoft Teams and the ability to then put your phone system into the cloud to provide a more flexible solution that's easier to manage for your staff and customers. So in terms of how fast Microsoft Teams itself is growing, it's incredible. The majority of the world, as I mentioned, is using Microsoft to run their business. So Microsoft really got it right when they consolidated all those applications into one view. Were they the first to do it? I don't know, but you maybe saw competitors like Slack. Maybe G Suite had some in there, but they certainly are the best to do it. And the reason really is because most of their users were already using these applications. This is only the beginning of something that will continue to grow. In fact, these numbers that you see here, they constantly have to be updated. Every quarter, the growth for companies that are adopting or migrating over to Microsoft Teams is astronomical. So companies usually migrate to Microsoft Teams, and then at that point they say, okay, does it make sense to migrate our phone system over to Microsoft Teams. They're kind of two different projects as you see it. So by the time they get to us, customers that are interested in potentially migrating over their voice component to Teams, they've already been using it. So that's a big benefit if you look compared to the unified communications hosted VoIP industry in general. The ability to already use a platform before you migrate over to it is a huge advantage for anything that you sell. So it makes adoption training a lot easier, and certainly gives an advantage to every other product out there. So is Teams Voice the right solution for your business? Yes and no. So a lot of the times, I would say most of the time that customers are coming to us or prospects are coming to us with the interest of migrating their voice over to Teams, they usually do. But in some cases, if you're not using Microsoft or using G Suite, or maybe you have a WebEx or Cisco backend, maybe the answer is no. So really, the way that I look at technology and what Teams has really changed, and Teams Voice for people like me, is the ability to consolidate your business down to one application, or as close to one as possible. So if you have to add a third-party phone system, then you are adding additional applications for your entire staff to use and your IT staff to manage. It adds a learning curve in there, right? You're adding extra steps now to communicate. Whereas that if you can consolidate that down and put it within Microsoft Teams, and you're already using Microsoft Teams as it is, or Office 365, then it definitely makes sense for your business. You see that there's other components out there. You see that we're using WebEx today. We wanted to kind of provide that exercise. So if you are using Microsoft Teams, you can see what it would look like to use a third-party application. So in a lot of cases, if you look at you have the ability to stream movies on just one application and not have to go to Netflix or HBO Max, so on and so forth, you would do that. And that's what Microsoft Teams really provides more than anything. So what Comtech is really good at is making sure, painting that picture for you in terms of what the experience would be like for customers if they were to migrate over to Microsoft Teams Voice. So in terms of how does it improve your business, Teams Voice means that you can work from anywhere, from any device, first and foremost. So it is a component of cloud VoIP and unified communications, but within that, it consolidates you down to that one application. So I run sales here at Comtech, and I have the ability to make and take phone calls from my smartphone, tablet, laptop, computer, wherever I am. So it gives me the flexibility, and certainly provides better work balance, and also to my personal life and to my work life. I feel that I can work more no matter where I'm at and make better decisions, and also share files and communicate with my customers, my partners, the team that works for me here, and make sure that we're all on the same page no matter where I'm at. So physically, it really provides and leverages the best in breed technology that runs your business today, and it's far easier to communicate with your customers across the board. Think of a support organization, being able to hire better talent no matter where you are. The fact that you can collaborate from anywhere really improves the company, the efficiency, so on and so forth. And it also helps your IT staff really consolidate their technology to manage one application. If you think about it from an IT perspective, cybersecurity, the risk that you're adding on an outdated premise-based phone system, on maybe an additional cloud application, is that when you move your your phone system over to Microsoft Teams, that really reduces a lot of risk for your IT staff. Outdated technology is difficult for modern day IT staff to manage because as you hire more people, what they're trained on is today's technology, not yesterday's technology. So I think it makes sense from multiple perspectives, and then also, how you collaborate is one thing, but also how you can leverage this technology long term is really an improvement and testament of Microsoft themselves and being able to collaborate from anywhere. So you think about the third-party applications that Microsoft competes with, some of the big boys, they're constantly laying people off. There's issues with support. There's issues with outsourcing that. So what Microsoft has done well is they provided the ability for companies like Comtech to provide the best support installation possible to make sure that you always have the best in breed technology that you can leverage. So in terms of, why do we offer multiple Teams voice options here? So let me start by saying Comtech offers multiple Teams voice options. Reason being is because no two customers are the same. So really what we do well is we provide the ability to blend old school telephony with modern day Teams voice. That's all native to the Teams voice application, meaning that all of our users are using the Teams voice application no matter which solution they're on. So we have Teams Basic, we have Teams Essentials, we have Teams Advanced. The reason we have those three flavors is because think of yourself if you're migrating off an older premise-based solution, for example, well, you're going to have some feature functionality that isn't inherent in Microsoft if you were to go with that basic solution. If you went with Microsoft Direct and went with one of their calling plans, you'd be limited in terms of the type of functionality that you have. That does work for some, but for most it does not. So if you really tie that to the user experience, that's kind of where I like to show the benefits. So again, the consultants here at Comtech, we have the ability to paint that picture for our prospects so they understand what they're getting into. And as IT directors or CTOs or CEOs are making decisions as to whether to migrate their voice over, they want to understand how it's going to affect all the users, not just them. So if you think about a law firm, there's many generational gaps within a law firm. So how do you cater to all those needs? Some want to be able to pick up and make and take phone calls on a physical phone, a device. Some want to use a headset like I'm using, or Bluetooth headset. We can cater to all those needs, but that really comes into the discovery process and working with a company like Comtech, so we understand what a good user experience looks like. In addition to the Teams Advanced side that we offer, what we do is we use our underlying phone system that we host in our data centers, and that kind of feeds into Microsoft Teams. So you'd be using the management console outside of Office 365, which means you don't have to risk, all the admin console in Office 365 is the heartbeat of your business. So if something were to go wrong in there, that could be, catastrophic to your business. So we provide you the ability to manage that phone system outside of that. It also provides additional features like contact center, text messaging, if you have overhead paging or, door buzzers, stuff like that. I can go on and on, but that's just some examples of what that looks like. And I have a slide that kind of paints that picture. It also provides redundancy as well. So if you think of yourself from a redundant standpoint, if Microsoft Teams has an outage, well, if our phone system's on the front end of that, then we can just forward calls to another device, to cell phones, to make sure that our customers are never missing calls. And that's a very important aspect of the way that we can deliver telephony from a redundancy standpoint, because the customers that we usually deal with are mission critical customers. We have a lot of healthcare facilities, assisted living, drug and addiction alcohol centers, law firms, right? These are companies that depend on the phone systems to drive revenue. So they come to us because in some cases, maybe they're moving off an old cloud phone system or a new cloud phone system, but they still want to migrate over to Teams. So they could have a modern day cloud solution from another UCaaS provider, but they still want to have that experience all within Teams because it's easier to train their staff. It's easier for their staff to communicate with their customers. It really reduces the time and simplifies IT. There's so many benefits of using that one application. And in addition, we're filling those missing feature gaps and providing that experience, to the customer. So when they do migrate off, whether it's an older, prem-based phone system or a cloud-based phone system, but that user experience caters to all the employees across the board. It's easy day one to use the new technology. So in terms of understanding the different features, I'm not going to go through each one and read these. The real benefit, if you kind of look at it, is that you'll even see some of the same features on both sides. The one thing about Comtech and the telephony products that we go with is that it provides you more detailed call flow, the ability to make sure that you're never missing calls. Having an old school or even a modern day PBX that we host on site, or in our data centers, I should say, feeding into Teams means that we have the ability to provide you with a true telephony experience from end to end. So that comes in many different ways. We even have customers that are moving off old analog POTS lines. We have assistant living healthcare facilities that have 300 POTS lines, and they want to do another 500 people on Teams voice, right? So how do you blend those two worlds together so that everybody's on the same dialing plan, that everybody's on the same kind of voice network, so to speak? So that's where Comtech comes in, and the advanced option, being able to really fill in and provide the customers with what they need, so that they don't have to rewire, rip out, remove all outdated technology. Is that day one, again, that experience is pretty smooth, and there's not a lot of resistance or friction for their IT staff. And it's really the IT staff that bears the brunt if something goes wrong after the install. They're the ones who have to deal with the tickets from their employees, their staff, which then bleeds down to us. So training is essential. Adoption is essential. These are things that we come on site for. We have unlimited training for all of our customers. It never ends. The user experience, the customer experience, the journey, that is what we're all about. Most companies, in terms of providing feature functionality, we're all splitting hairs, to be honest with you, at that point. But really where companies set themselves apart is installations, support, training, those type of things. And that's where we feel we can really make an impact for those high availability, mission critical type of companies that are out there. So is Teams Voice a cost-effective solution? Absolutely. In many cases, it does reduce costs. If they're coming off a modern-day hosted cloud voice UCaaS solution, then yes, it's cost-effective for sure. So if you think, hey, I purchased or went with a cloud provider 3-5 years ago and want to look at migrating over to Microsoft Teams, what does that look like? It certainly will reduce some costs. If you look at it from the perspective of migrating from an older premise-based phone system that's on site or older voice technology, it'll reduce cost and risk and also time. A lot of cases. So you measure that a little bit differently because you've already bought the phone system up front. In most cases, companies aren't looking to buy another on-prem phone system. That's a dead technology or technology that's close to dead. The companies are struggling mightily, the manufacturers of those prem systems, and then the IT staff that has to manage that outdated prem system. Those are points of failure. So the more physical hardware that you add on site is the more points of failure when it comes to being able to provide the right phone system. So these IT staff, what they want to do is they want to be able to kind of outsource their phone systems to companies like us so they can manage it from the internet, from portals, from GUI interfaces and whatnot, have the ability to manage that phone system call flow from anywhere, provides the flexibility to IT staff so they can have time back to focus on cybersecurity and more important things. It also means that it's easier for companies to interact with their staff, with patients, with their clients, using one application and unifying their communication so they can make phone calls, have video, share files. They can pull people in the calls, so on and so forth, right? So many times I'm collaborating, with my team. I have to pull somebody else in. We're looking at a file, have to share that. All that can be done through the one application that we use. So again, Comtech as a voice provider, we choose to use Microsoft Teams internally just because our company runs off of Microsoft from an Office Suite standpoint. So we all have files that we share, Word, PowerPoint, PDFs, so on and so forth. This is a direct reflection on terms of decision making. Because we use those products, we want to use the one application on the voice side. We migrated over during the pandemic, like a lot of other companies did, and really saw the benefits to where we said, okay, this actually gives us more flexibility in hiring people, managing people, making the right decisions for a company. And if you equate time to money in terms of an ROI, then Teams will will provide you a lot of cost savings, multiple ways. There's not one way to look at it, in my opinion. But if you want to look just from a purely dollar and cents, in most cases, yes, it does save you money. Absolutely. And then from a licensing standpoint, I'm not going to take a huge deep dive into Microsoft licensing. I'll say this, that there's probably over 10,000 Microsoft licensing options out there, but only a handful, maybe a dozen or half a dozen apply to Teams Voice. So, we have the ability, our consultants here will break down any additional licensing that a prospect or a customer would need to migrate over to Teams Voice. That's something that we do know very well. We also work with tremendous partners, managed service providers. We work with Microsoft VARs. We work with older premise-based dealers that are migrating their voice over to cloud. And we're able to break that down and also leverage our partners. We don't sell Office 365 licensing. We're not into that world. We're not a CSP, which is a cloud service provider. We depend on our partners for that, but we can consult the partner and or the customer in terms of what licensing they're going to need on a case-by-case basis. If I started kind of dabbling in it today, it'll get very confusing. It's something that it's very specific to the licensing that you have. And in that case, I can apply, what licensing you might need. In some cases, some customers don't need any licensing. They're on E5. They have everything that they need to migrate over. So it's a case by case kind of situation that we take. But just rest assured that we will break that down in terms of making sure that companies have the right licensing before they move forward with us. And listen, I appreciate everybody hopping on here. This was just supposed to be a quick high overview in terms of how Teams can benefit your business. The reason I really love Microsoft Teams is because I just live in it all day. I mean, as somebody who's on a leadership team, an executive, it makes my job a lot easier. It provides the flexibility for me to spend time with my family, work with them, work from anywhere. The benefits are endless. Having seen the evolution from Link to Skype to the Teams Voice, it's astronomical how much it has improved, and the fact that Microsoft provides the ability for third parties like Comtech to provide their voice network support installation in there, really makes a huge difference. So I thank you for hopping on today, and if there's anything I can do to help forward or we can do as a team to help, feel free to reach out.
Great, thank you, Brad. So this is the time now for the Q&A portion of the webinar. So feel free, like I mentioned, to chat with me directly. And some of you have sent in some of your questions. And as I mentioned, I'll also be incorporating some that were sent in previously. So the first one is from Kevin. He's asking, if an employee has a hybrid work schedule, does their extension stay the same when they are working from home?
Yes. So one of the limitations of going with the Teams Basic or Microsoft Direct Voice is that everybody becomes a name and no longer an extension, which is why we provide an advanced option in there. So the advanced option gives you the ability to keep your extension. It's kind of keep the call flow the same way from your old solution over to the modern day solution here. So without a doubt, you can keep your extension no matter where you are. It'll ring your laptop, smart device, wherever. So when I get a phone call, it rings like 5 different devices here. It's like a Christmas tree. It lights up everything. But it's I never miss a call, I can tell you that. And I also have an extension, by the way, so I have that same experience.
Okay. Someone else asks, we're thinking of moving to Box Top DaaS Cloud. How does MS Teams Voice work with it?
Yeah, I don't know Box Top DaaS Cloud, so I'd have to look into that a little bit more. I don't know if that's a file storage. I don't know if that's like a Dropbox type of thing. I don't know if that's a phone system. It's desktop as a service. One of my esteemed colleagues here just pointed out to me. So I'd have to look into what the integrations look like and how that would work. So I don't know off the top of my head, but certainly something we can look into and pull our sales engineers in to look at as well. I'm sure we
Right.
have experience. I just personally don't.
Right. That's what I was going to say too. Definitely one of our engineers here at Comtech would be able to better answer that and assist Brad with an answer for you. So we can definitely follow up with you after the webinar, but thank you for that question. Someone else asks, if I would choose to work with your company, what does the typical installation look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. The typical installation is about 30 to 60 days, I would say. And that's, sometimes we can go over to 90, sometimes it can be done before. Depends somewhat on the customer and timelines and needs and whatnot. But really, it starts with, once we get, contractually kind of things squared away, we get that over to our project manager team. And they run point on this. There's no heavy lifting really for customers. They're just providing us the information so that we can facilitate porting their numbers over or start building the call flow. So it's a step-by-step process that we walk them through. And then before the go live, which means that we'll say that you're on day 50 and day 60 is the go live when you're moving over to Teams. Everything's been tested, accepted, migrated over. And really, if there's any on-site installation or cabling that needs to be done, that's already been done as well. But there's a full project manager team with engineering behind them to build all the call flows and whatnot to make sure that from beginning to end that we're doing all the heavy lifting for the customers.
And someone else asks, does Teams Voice Advanced support call centers?
It does. We do have a call center that we would use. It is our own iConnect ZX, which is our cloud product that we host. It stands outside of Microsoft Teams itself, meaning that we have seen that for the Teams customers that we have that have the contact center users sit in that iConnect ZX application, but can make and take phone calls and send those to the Teams side of the business, which is all on the same dialing plan voice network. But the two applications and experiences are separate in that world. So we don't have an integrated contact center from an application standpoint, but we do have an integrated contact center from a voice standpoint. And that's what we've seen in terms of user needs. We haven't really seen the ability or the need for many contact center users to be using the Microsoft Teams application itself. They can communicate back and forth many different ways though, so it doesn't really slow them down from a communication standpoint. Provides all the reporting that you need, and certainly a call flow, we can, they usually hit the contact center side first, and then they'll forward over to users on the Microsoft Teams side with extension dialing or percentage dialing.
Okay. Next question. Does Comtech's price include the Teams voice licensing if using E3, for instance?
No, it does not. There's add-on cost to the E3 licensing. You could either move up to E5, or you can add, and this is, again, I don't like to dabble in this because it can get a little confusing, but there is additional $8 to $12 costs on an E3 license if you were to stay on the E3. So it kind of puts you in the conundrum of, do I want to add that $8 to $12 on the E3 cost, or do I want to move up to E5, which is like $15 more? So in most cases, a lot of customers have I'd say E3 is the most popular license that we see, but maybe they have 300 users on E3, 100 users on Business Premium. So what I do and what we do here is break down that cost for the various different licensing options so you can see the cost benefits and make the decision yourself. But we do not provide the licensing, and it does not come with the licensing. That you have to buy separate from whoever you're buying your licensing from, or one of our partners if you're leveraging them.
Okay. Another question is, can my current phone numbers and phone system settings be migrated to Teams?
Yes, absolutely. So phone system settings, for the most part, yes. No two call flows or platforms are quite the same, but the Teams Advanced option provides far more call flow options. Similar to maybe if you're migrating off an older premise-based PBX or even a new cloud solution, but we can cater to those needs absolutely much better. Where Teams Basic native itself, probably you don't have as many options there. You can always migrate your phone numbers over. That's not a problem. It's what we call a port in the industry, line number portability, and that's something that our project managers would take care of here. So in some cases, we have customers that migrate just their main numbers, or they migrate their entire all DIDs for all users, depending on what they have today, but not a problem there.
Okay. And another question from Frank. Will there be any downtime when moving to Microsoft Teams?
No, not, so really the way it works is the only downtime really that comes, I mean, not to say it's never happened, but in most cases, no. So really the downtime would come when the numbers port. So what I mean is that porting means that you're moving your numbers from your old carrier over to Comtech. And when those numbers move from the old carrier to Comtech, you are now live on our platform and you're dead on the other platform. So the only downtime would come in is that if a couple numbers got left into the switch from the old carrier, we work with them pretty quickly to get that done. It's pretty rare; it doesn't happen much. But in most, I'd say 90+% of the time, customers have migrated over with no downtime because we're scheduling that port at 10 o'clock on this date. These numbers are going to port. We already have all the call flows built. We can test them with temporary numbers, then remove those numbers for the numbers that come in. So there's a whole process to make sure that we're doing things the right way, and also avoiding any downtime for the customer. So in some cases, we have to do it after hours. It could be customer affecting. It depends on the customer's needs, but we're pretty successful at that. So yeah.
Great. And can employees still have a desk phone if we transition to Teams phone system?
Yes, you can. You have more options on the Teams Advanced for sure, and that's the route we'd probably prefer. So in a lot of cases for companies coming from modern day cloud solutions, UCaaS solutions, they have Polycoms or Galinks or Grand Streams, whatever it might be they want to reuse. We can certainly reuse those. Provides more third-party options, so they can use, but we can also provide phones on either platform, conference phones, break room phones, user phones. It's very dependent on the individual themselves. So I would say it's still 50-50 at most companies, where 50% of the company wants to have a physical device on their desk, 50% does not. They want to use a headset, or they want to use a Bluetooth. So we can cater to all those needs.
This next question, I'm not sure if we might need to contact this person for more information or not, so you can let me know, Brad. But they have asked, does MS Team Voice sound robotic due to poor ISP connection?
Any cloud voice solution or UCaaS solution would sound what we call jitter, latency. Without a good ISP connection, no cloud voice solution is going to sound good. That's not just Teams, that's anything. So it's a voice over internet protocol. So the internet is very important, which is why most of the time Comtech provides internet connections. It's something that we also consult on and can provide at a wholesale rate. And what that does is, if you don't have enough bandwidth, if you look at bandwidth as like lanes of traffic, the more traffic you get in lane 1 goes to lane 2, lane 3, and then all of a sudden there's a traffic jam and no cars can go through. That's the same as a voice packet. Voice packets are essentially data packets. They're the same thing. But when you have to click off a website and click back on, people don't really get that upset. But when you start having voice issues, people do get very upset, and rightly so. So the bandwidth is a direct reflection. It will direct impact on how your voice traverses over your network. So you do want to make sure that you have enough. It's not, as you use video, it does impact a little bit more, meaning that you're using more bandwidth. Straight phone calls don't use a lot, but you certainly want to make sure that you have enough, because it will sound, I guess, robotic is a good way to put it. You can sound like you're underwater. There's a few different things that we've seen over the years, less and less, because bandwidth is so much. The bandwidth cost is going down so much, and the megs have gone up, and gigs. I have a gig in my house, which when I started selling this, that would have cost me $5,000 a month. So things are a little bit different now, but yes, bandwidth is a direct impact on your voice quality.
Great, thank you. So this next question is very specific to contact centers. Jason asks, Can you go over any experiences with integrating Teams Voice with third-party contact center as a service? For example, Five9's or Pure Connect Cloud.
Five9's has been a few years. I did have some experience. It was very early on in the Teams release. So I did have experience integrating Skype, which is a lot harder to integrate with any third party. Skype was a different animal than Teams, so it just didn't work quite the same way. From what I've seen, is the best way to do it is use it like another voice component. To integrate it within, we have to define what integrated means. So if you're talking about using Teams Voice inside of a contact center and using that one application like we want to do for Teams, then I would say there isn't really a great solution that I've seen yet. I think we're still working towards that as an industry. So if you're talking about using the contact center like we provide outside of the Teams application on a separate application, I would say the experience is fine. It works that way. But you just want to make sure that companies that are painting that picture are transparent about it. There's no point in trying to make something that's not there. So I believe Five9's was one of the first to provide what we call an integration to Microsoft Teams out there. The evolution I haven't seen too much of there, meaning that I don't have a lot of experience. It's been a few years since I dealt with Five9's or Neat or InContact or the big ones out there. But it's something that they're all going to have to cater to. I can say that Microsoft voice products are different than traditional voice products, even unified communications or cloud products. So I'm not an engineer or developer. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but the way that the coding works is a little bit different. It also is a two-way street when we're talking about integrations, is that Five9 and Microsoft have to meet each other kind of halfway in terms of what they provide. So click to dial, all the basic stuff is going to be relatively easily. But when you start getting into more advanced contact center needs, I haven't really seen huge success across the board. But again, I could be ignorant to the last couple of years and what that looks like. I'd have to look into it a little bit more. And they're great contact center providers, by the way, the ones that you mentioned. I've worked with them. They do things the right way. It's just not an easy thing to sometimes integrate to third parties.
Someone says, our business is mostly call centers. How do you see us using Teams?
It depends on the contact center. It's a great question. So if your contact center users really rely on the call center, the metrics within the call center, they live in that call center application and world, then the way that I would see you using Microsoft, I'm not sure Microsoft Teams would be the best solution for you. You might want to go with a third party. It depends on who the contact center users and what they're using. So if you're looking to integrate those two worlds together, you might have some difficulties there. With that said, there are some things that you can do on Power BI. There are some things that you can do to provide certain metrics and reporting. So if most of your users are living in contact center today, I'd have to understand what contact center it is as well. And that's something we could certainly take a deeper dive into. We're starting to really understand the world of contact center a little bit more because it's coming up more and more in opportunities that we see. But we want to always set the right expectation, is that the contact center world and the Microsoft Teams world have not found a consistent way to work together within one single pane of glass, right? It's just there might be certain features that carry over well and certain features that don't. So I think that's something that's going to evolve significantly, though, over time, and certainly something that developers can help with, and we have a lot of partners that do help us with that stuff in the back end. But really, to give you a concrete answer, we'd have to sit down and get a better understanding of what you're using and what you're trying to do from an integration standpoint. I don't mean to be vague, but I just don't want to, again, speak out of turn and give any misleading answers without knowing that.
Great. Okay, thank you. It looks like we have reached our endpoint here, but if anyone has additional questions, Brad, you can go to the next slide. Be sure to reach out to us. There's our contact information directly to Brad, or you can visit our website, comtechsystems.net. Again, thank you everyone. We appreciate you being here, and we will be sending this recording, as I mentioned, to you along with those survey questions. Please, please, please fill out your candid feedback. We want to make sure we have a great presentation for you again next time. And we will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.